Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the First Class Podcast where we talk about Bitcoin, crypto, NFTs, Web3, everything you need to learn to get into this decentralized economy. I'm the C. Steven, and I'm here with my boys.
It's your boy Sticks.
It's your boy Juwan, aka JB.
And JB, tell them who we're talking to today.
So for our first episode, it was only right that we brought on a very special guest. We had the co-founder of StackerDAOs, Orlando Cosme, and he was dropping gems all episode.
Listen, absolute bombs. But before we get into that, I need you guys to do me a favor, smash that like button for the algorithm because people need to hear this information. Also, make sure you guys subscribe so you can find your way back for more videos. Listen, we got an awesome community growing super fast over on Discord. If you want to join a community of absolute Degens, make sure you guys hit that link in the description and join the Discord.
Just start at square one. Honestly, this whole crypto thing is blowing up, and I feel like it's been blowing up depending on what circle of people you run in. But for the people that I know on my day-to-day basis, if I scroll through my phone, still so many people don't know about crypto, don't know about Bitcoin, any of that kind of stuff. You're neck deep in this. So tell us a little bit about, what you were doing before you got into crypto and what kind of was the tipping point that got you interested in what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer by trade. I until about a month ago, actually about a month ago today, I worked at a law firm representing tech startups as their outside general counsel and venture capital firms in their investments in startups. Before that, I was a litigator at a large international law firm, doing basically representing like large companies and so like Deloitte, Johnson & Johnson, Ford, doing securities litigation, government enforcement work. And so that was my first job at a law school. Before law school, I worked at WeWork, the co-working space, doing expansion for them in London and Amsterdam, and then a little bit in New York. And then my first job out of college was on a trading desk at a large investment bank here in New York doing interest rate trading. So I kind of had a pretty varied career. And then turning to crypto, and I guess like why I myself ended up getting so deep into crypto. I had looked at crypto like almost multiple times since like Bitcoin basically like launched, and I, like every single time I kind of like didn't really see much there. And then I remember this last wave, like I don't know, maybe like in 2000, probably like or sorry, so 2020 in 2020, like I think during the summer, I started seeing just a lot of pretty smart people that I knew, who I respected pretty well, that were like kind of getting into crypto. And I was like, let me like take a look again to see like what's going on. And I think this time around, there was just so much more built. There was like way more there's like way more apps. DeFi was around. At this time, NFTs hadn't really blown up yet, but you just had a lot more like substance. Whereas like I think like in 2017, I had friends that were kind of just like chasing around these shit coins and ICOs. And like, again, I remember like speaking to them because I was a trader, like back, in my former life. So I was like, I'm like always interested in like investments and trading and stuff. And I would just look at these tokens and be like, there's like nothing here. These are like total scams. But this one around, like there was like real tech behind it. And I just kind of saw how crypto is basically going to be the next generation of the internet. So really for me, it was kind of like the whole Web3 thing. That kind of like drew me in, and I was just like, I feel like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Totally.
And kind of also then you start seeing the secondary kind of like socioeconomic effects, how different industries are just kind of being completely revamped through crypto, and like kind of like how like crypto just makes all these different business models possible, where like users can kind of, like own or control at least a bit of like any sort of like internet product. Again, like you guys are doing like a learn and earn organization, like all these different models just kind of springing up. And, I just kind of like love that. I loved how there was so much ingenuity kind of just going in, like, like literally every week to this day, I read something like, I just like read all these different new business models, people applying just like new ideas to different things. And I just think it's so cool and so exciting. And you could never keep pace. There's always something new coming up every single day. And then kind of so I'm the founder of StackerDAOs, which is a DAO generation management platform on Stacks. And the reason and the way I guess I got involved there, and it's basically what I'm doing full time right now. And the way that I got involved or kind of came up with the idea was that I just initially kind of, I think, gravitated towards DAOs. And I think like a lot of lawyers, I mean, there aren't many lawyers involved in crypto, but the ones who do, I think kind of naturally have an affinity to DAOs given kind of like the focus on governance. And a lot of times lawyers kind of like work on governance issues with companies. So I think there's kind of like a natural alignment there. And initially, me and my co-founder, we initially started talking because we wanted to launch this NFT project on Stacks using MIA to mint, MIA being Miami coin, with the idea being that we would use the proceeds, or we would have the NFT community kind of like vote where to spend the proceeds, and proceeds would go to some kind of like local Miami organization. That way, Miami coin could kind of expand its use cases, and we can show how crypto can have a real world impact. And the thing we realized was that doing so in a manual way would be a major pain in the ass. And so we were just like, okay, maybe we can try to figure out a way to automate this. Essentially, like what we wanted was a DAO, and there was no DAO infrastructure on Stacks. And so we just basically decided to build it.
So hold on, because I want to unpack that a little bit. Like you,
for sure. Yeah, I was just going off there.
No, honestly, this is like potentially a 6-hour conversation, because first of all, you came off a trading desk and became a lawyer. First of all, like, those are like two extremely high stress, hard to do, let's make this money kind of jobs.
He's just throwing them in there like it's nothing, and I'm like, I'm wondering how old you are. Like, how were you able to do all this stuff in like one lifetime?
It's good though.
No, I'm not that. I'm actually just turning 30 in 3 weeks.
This guy's the same age as me.
Juwan, you've been sleeping in too much, bro.
I had to take a sip of water after that. I'm like, I'm doing enough with my life.
That's good though. But no, you make a good point in that, governance, right? It's one of those things where we look at crypto as like a decentralized, an opportunity to get communities together and get them on the same page, and basically take out the middleman and basically remove the figurehead in a lot of cases, so that the power is in the people, right? It's like a bottom up thing, this whole crypto economy. And so governance, I think that attracts a lot of people to, of course, there's the shitcoin casino like you're talking about, but there's a whole different group of people who are coming to crypto because they want to be a part of a movement. They want to have influence, and they want to have their voice be heard. And I want to hear a little bit more about that whole governance thing. Like, for somebody who is brand new, like this is their very first time hearing about this stuff, could you just very quickly just break down like what is a DAO exactly before you even get into like how they work and whatnot? Just like, what is a DAO? What does it do?
Sure.
Who's in a DAO?
So that is actually an insanely complicated question. Like, what is a DAO? Seriously, like if you ask even people like in the space who work with DAOs, they'll tell you like they'll probably each have their own answer. But so a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, and the way I would define a DAO is it is an organization that is brought together to perform some kind of mission or in pursuit of some kind of mission, and that is controlled by the community, and that that is controlled by the community, has a crypto treasury, and whose rules are enforced by a blockchain. And then there's like a bunch of other, there are a million different ways to structure it. There's a bunch of things kind of on top of that, the social layer and how the community functions outside the blockchain that kind of may differ DAO to DAO. But I think fundamentally, what a DAO is and kind of what every DAO has is, they're community controlled. So like they have members and they're controlled by their members. They have some kind of crypto treasury. That's kind of the whole point of being on the blockchain, is that the organization can pull together crypto. And again, its rules. The DAO is governed by smart contracts, which is basically code on the blockchain that then governs kind of like the rules, or how the DAO goes about functioning. By rules, I mean things like voting, kind of like what sort of things can the DAO do. All those things are kind of like hard coded in smart contracts on the blockchain for this organization.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like a DAO would have certain applications that would be better. For example, an investing club, or if people want to get together and they want to buy like a really expensive NFT that individually none of them could afford, but together they could do it as a group. Or if they want to your point, like you want to start a business and raise money, and then that money be used to go towards something else. That pretty much those are like the
Yeah, I
main
guess.
applications.
Yeah. So the reason, I mean, and people ask this question all the time, like, why would you form a DAO and you can start a company, or you can just like, just have a group chat or something and just organize it that way, right? So the reason why, those aspects are important, like being community owned, having rules enforced by blockchain, having a crypto treasury, is that it facilitates coordination, both the coordination of financial capital and human capital. And what do I mean by that? So, in 2022, right, especially like I think like post-pandemic, or I guess during the pandemic, our lives are just increasingly digital. And before, where maybe, you would kind of like, if you're going to go and start business pursuit, or maybe you just deal with money with other people, it would probably be people that you knew, right, that you knew personally. And if you guys had wanted to, let's say, do something, maybe you would like give all your money to like one person, Venmo them money, and that one person will go do stuff, right? But that requires trust. That requires that you like know that person, that you trust that person, right? 2022, now that our lives are increasingly digital, it's pretty common for people to kind of just like meet friends on the internet, right? Like literally, like we met on the internet,
Literally.
right? So like it's like pretty, whether it to be like, I don't know, through video games, like Twitter, Reddit, Facebook groups, whatever, right? People now are like increasingly kind of like just becoming friends online. It's becoming more common and more socially accepted to become friends online. But at the end of the day, you never met this person in real life. Like you don't know if that person is actually who they say they are, right? And so the problem of coordinating online, like are you just going to Venmo someone potentially like hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars who you've never actually met in person? You might, but like, I don't know. Like,
It's not advised.
Yeah, right. But with a DAO, right? Like you can, all the DAO smart contracts are published on the blockchain. It's all public. Anyone can see it. So you can see kind of like what the rules of this DAO are, and you can deposit money into the DAO, and you know that no one can just come in and steal all that money, right? You know that whatever the DAO does has to go through some kind of like member vote. And so that trust component, right, that kind of is pretty necessary for coordination, especially when you're talking about like financial coordination. It's now not necessary, right? Because you have this like trustless component of DAOs now, or of organizations with DAOs.
Right.
The other thing is, another thing, practically speaking, like trying to get a lot of money from people, potentially like that may take a few business days or whatever, because it's all crypto as well. You can just organize crypto and money pretty easily. Like you guys may have seen the Constitution now. This like DAO that was organized like by the Constitution in 5 days they were able to like accumulate like $40 million.
Yeah.
Most because people were just sending crypto, and like within a few seconds, whenever you sent that crypto, you sent it, you saw where it went, you saw that it hit the treasury. Again, all this information is public. You saw kind of, again, the rules of that DAO. And so you can just do these things where you can just like give money to some random organization that's trying to buy the Constitution, and you know that you're not going to get rugged. You're not gonna get fucked over.
That's so crazy, because I went to the bank the other day to withdraw $5,000 of my own money, and they wouldn't let me have it. Imagine you and your people get together, like let's pile in 40 million and then do what we want with it, and nobody's there to stop you. I think that's a powerful development, to say the least, right?
Yeah, and I think another thing, this is more of a cultural thing. This isn't so much, I think, but this isn't so much necessarily like enforced by the blockchain, but by having users kind of control the organization, mixed just generally with the culture of DAOs. Another aspect of DAOs is that DAOs are much more flat, right? And power kind of, because they are user controlled or community controlled, power flows from the users, from the community, to any sort of leader, right? Any sort of like leader in the DAO, or anyone who's doing something, any sort of like major contributor, the equivalent who might be like the head of whatever, of some kind of department at a company, right? Like it's really the community that's kind of delegating that authority to them. So they're choosing these people and they're allowing these people to do that for the DAO, but anytime they can just vote them out, right? Whereas normally, right, like companies are very hierarchical. They're like a pyramid. They're kind of like structured as a pyramid. So you have like a CEO on top, and then you have like their lieutenants, and then like the heads of departments, and then you have like the employees all the way at the bottom. And then like customers have no say at all, right? So DAOs kind of flipped it on its head, where the people with like the major source of power are either like the community, and the community, depending on the DAO, many times can be like you. If it's a DAO that has some kind of product or protocol, can be like the actual users of the product. So it's like if the customer got to choose like who are the people who are contributing to the DAO, and they're the ones making all the major decisions. So it's much more this like kind of, it flips kind of the normal hierarchical model of companies and allows for this kind of more flat kind of like, I guess, like working structure.
Yeah.
Do you see like a negative in like, I guess like the customers having more power in something like that? We've talked about say like there's a community vote, some people aren't paying attention. Is there a negative in say people may not have like the best interest in mind for the DAO or the project, and these things kind of just gets just passed without people knowing or noticing?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely downsides to DAOs. Not gonna front. And like, as someone who now their livelihood basically like, rests on that, on like the success of DAOs, I'll admit it. Like they're very much not perfect. And I think sometimes people, I think, can get a little too crazy or like excited about like, oh, like we should make this a DAO. And it's like, not everything should be a DAO.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, no. And like, the thing is, right, like, so the problem with having anyone be able to kind of like have input is that everyone has input and everyone has their own say, but also no one wants to do anything, right? So what tends to happen a lot of times with DAOs is do a lot of pontificating, people want to talk shit, no one wants to do anything, so nothing really gets done, especially like maybe when people start, because also if you get like just like 100 people to start talking about something, everyone's gonna have their own opinion, everyone's gonna it's like very hard to kind of come to a consensus. And so what ends up happening in successful DAOs is that just having leaders who just kind of emerge and are like, all right, we're just going to do this.
Yeah.
And problem, say something, but unless a majority of you guys have a problem, we're just going to do this, right? Which, you think about it, that's basically kind of like management. So like, you still have to, I think, in some ways, have this like structure and have like leadership and have certain like centralized points. And DAOs, or else nothing will get done.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the difference is with DAOs, at least, like the community can still like take power away from those people.
Yeah. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like the customers, the people that are buying into your business, your project or whatever, it makes them like feel like they have more power with what they can do, right? They have more say with what their money goes to.
I'm curious because what you just said like made me think about something like elections, because so many people don't vote, right?
Yeah.
But they want to have a say in like policies or how their lives are governed. Is there like any practical ways that you could like example of how you think DAOs could actually like change an entire industry? I know you've probably thought of millions of ways, but is there one that is like, you're like, in the next 5 to 10 years, DAOs could completely change this industry and we could completely be doing something different?
Yeah, so I think specifically with music, so you have what are called creator DAOs, and this is kind of I'm kind of like gonna be like weaving in NFT, like kind of like traditional NFTs with DAOs. You have like what are called creator DAOs, which are kind of like DAOs that are kind of centered around maybe some kind of creator. And I think what we're gonna start seeing more of are artists. And I think this is particularly important for music, or I could just be biased because I love music, obviously, like most people love music, but I hate how there's so many good artists, like so many good musicians who just, never make it big. And so they can't like make a living off making music. And so they have to like get some other job or whatever, but they're so fucking good. It's just that they're not good at like, the whole like Instagram game,
marketing,
like yeah. And that's the only way you become popular. That's the only way you can make a living off of being a musician in it, because you get to like become popular enough where you can make money off touring and stuff, because you don't make money off Spotify, right? So, Web3 music is starting to blow up, and what's kind of starting to happen is, they're like, issuing these NFTs, which are way more expensive, with the idea being you have these like super fans that will be willing to pay a lot more for these NFTs. And if you speak to like any kind of like Web3 musician, which basically means like these didn't exist like 6 months ago, like they're fairly new, but a lot of them have said like they made way more money off an NFT drop than they've made in like 10 years of music. Right?
Yeah.
Because, and by selling way less like NFTs than records, because NFTs cost, you can probably charge like a few $100, $200 for them, whatever. And so the idea is that you can just have these like super fans, right, who kind of buy into your NFT, and then, like almost like form a DAO with those NFTs. They can't like your fans, right? And they can like have a say and like dictate kind of a lot of the things you do as a musician. Like help with the creative process, or help maybe with like trying to like decide events, things like that. So you have these like creator DAOs, right? And I think potentially you might have these like really good musicians who just could never get that big of a following, but maybe had a few like maybe like 10,000 super hardcore fans who originally like, or right now, right, with the current music industry, 10,000 fans just like isn't enough to make a living off of.
Not on the old model.
Not the old model, right? But with this new model, like if you have 10,000 people who are willing to pay like $200 for an NFT, like do the math.
Yeah. And to be honest, this makes me think of, that famous, well, you might not know, there's this famous blog article by a guy named Kevin Kelly. He talks about 1,000 true fans. And I'm thinking about like the first time I heard of like crypto for real was from Nipsey Hussle. He was talking about Bitcoin in like 2017 or 18. And aside from that, he did. Yeah, I know. Rest in peace to Nip, because he would have been all over this. First of all,
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
He had this campaign called Proud to Pay, where he was charging people $100 for one of his mixtapes, a physical copy, and then they got like a private concert. They got autographs, they got merch, but it was a Proud to Pay campaign where he was like, to your point, like he was focused on the biggest fans. And he sold these CDs for like $100 a pop to like 1,000 people, and they sold out in like minutes. Yep. And it was one of those things where I'm thinking like that's basically, without being digital, that's basically what you're talking about. It's like an NFT. It's a collectible that you're selling to your hardcore fans, and then they get to have a different type of connection with you.
No, and because the artist too is issuing the NFTs, right? Like it's not, there's no record label that's taking away like, I don't know, like 80% of the profits, right? Like, so it allows like the artist to kind of maybe they're paying like some dev or like whatever, some like, and like the NFT platform, but it's like that take rate, the percent they're taking is way less than, like a record label takes. Like, so they're able to just make way more money in a way that allows these super hardcore fans to also have like a voice in the artist and in like their kind of like direction and what they do. So I think these kind of like creator DAOs, especially for in the music industry, I think has like the potential to really kind of just revolutionize that whole industry, or revolutionize music, and hopefully allow, again, these like really good musicians, or just like amazing, incredible musicians, right, that just like never had a chance because, again, they like couldn't do the whole marketing, kind of just frankly bullshit like game you have to play to like, like be able to get enough artists hits on Spotify, like that whole game, and can like just do what they want to do and cater to their hardcore fans.
I just think of like a Beyonce Beehive or Nicki Minaj Barbie DAO. Like that would go stupid. Taylor Swift DAO.
Taylor Swift would break Solana.
Yeah, I do. I'm not going to say like who, but I have spoken to someone who they're working on like NFTs with like some apparently like pretty like major artists, and the thing we're talking about is like potentially then like forming DAOs off of those like NFTs, and like with like artists on similar stature that you were just mentioning. So I do think it might be coming.
Honestly, I think that anything that's actually a viable, good idea will be done, because think about how fast this stuff is moving. Right now we're recording this is like, February 2nd or something like that. And I feel like we're halfway through 2022 because the amount of developments that happen in this industry. But to that point, like things are moving fast. A lot of people feel like they're left behind. They feel like the train has already left the station. And I feel you guys, what you're doing is kind of making it simple for people to get involved. So you're not a technical background guy. You're not a dev, you're not a coder, but you're in the industry and you're building stuff. So talk about the solution that you made and how you're trying to make it easier for people who are not like devs not writing code to get involved with DAOs and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we're building, like I mentioned before, a no-code DAO generation management platform. So at least on Stacks currently, well, I mean, just generally there aren't that many like DAO-related smart contracts. But if you do want to just like start your own DAO, you would have to like write these contracts yourself and kind of like execute them through kind of like your own like through your own means. There's not really like a platform you can go to. And so our platform, we're going to have probably something like 4 or so, like it's like, I was like DAO templates, or so different types of DAO. So like something like like an NFT community is one, like an investment club is a second one, like a guild would be a third, and then a fourth would be like something like a civic group or / like nonprofit, name work in progress. And each of those templates will have kind of like different structures, and they'll be kind of optimized for those different use cases. But when you go on the website, right, it'd be made so like anyone, even if they're not that technologically sophisticated, even if they don't really know crypto that well, can kind of just look at it and just like pick certain things that they want. If they like want to start an NFT community, right, click start, launch your DAO. I think you put in the name, whatever the name of your DAO is. You'll go next. You'll choose the use case. So, okay, you want to do an NFT community? Click NFT community. Then go next. It may ask you for like, if you like already have an NFTs, or you need to launch your NFTs. And so that will be like a different decision tree. And then you will then go to like choosing your rules for your DAO. So you have a quorum, which means that obviously you kind of want some kind of minimum amount of votes before any sort of like voting to be viable. Because you don't want a situation where someone submits a proposal for something and like 1 out of 100 members votes because no one's paying attention, and it goes through and it's like some wild shit, right? Like, so you want some kind of quorum to kind of prevent that, and then you want and you can decide like once the quorum is met, what percentage of yeses are needed to approve or what percentage is needed to approve a proposal. And that could, and the reason for that is like, we don't just want to make it 50%, because maybe you want more than 50%, right? Maybe you want 60, 65, because maybe you want like a lot more consensus before your DAO does anything. And so, you just choose that, like pretty simple interface. And then you click deploy in your contracts for your DAO, your smart contracts, which I said in the beginning of this podcast, govern the rules of your DAO. Will end up being deployed on the blockchain, and you'll have your DAO. And then you'll get on like a Dow Management Dashboard, where you can see things like the value of your treasury. You could submit proposals. You can try to add members. And again, the idea is just so anyone kind of manage it pretty easily. And if you're a DAO member, you can just go on, submit any proposal, vote. Also, like see what's happening in the treasury if you want to make sure that like I don't know, some like wild stuff hasn't happened.
No one ran off with the bag.
Yeah, exactly. Going off the bag. I mean, that wouldn't happen anyway unless there's a kind of vote. But maybe you just were out for like a month and haven't paid attention to this DAO for like a month, right? And you kind of want to see like what's been going on with the DAO. You can like go in and see like all the recent transactions, and also see like the holdings or the addresses of the DAO. These are called mirror tables. So I don't know if you have heard of cap tables on companies, but
cap table is basically all the VCs that invested in a company that's raising money, right?
Any shareholder. Yeah, it just shows you like the shareholder and then like how much shares they have. So we also have so the crypto or DAO analogy is called mirror tables, kind of coined by this guy named Balaji, who's a like a major just like
Shrinivasan.
Yeah, like a major thought.
That guy is so big brain every time he talks.
He knows like, big brain. Like right,
giga brain.
He's like, God damn. No, but so he kind of like coined the term mirror tables. But so we're also be including mirror tables so you can see, I don't know, maybe you just want to see to make sure that like someone doesn't own like 27% of the voting power, right? Something like that. So that could happen too. You can have like whales that buy up a governance token, NFT, and and there are ways around that too. You can structure quick aside. The one thing about DAOs is that they're so different and they're so unique. And they can be structured a million different ways. But anyway, so going back, you can structure it in a way where maybe like voting, it's hard for someone to just amass a bunch of votes. Like quadratic voting, just which basically means like the more a person the more voting power someone has, kind of like the less their vote means. Like the more tokens they have, the less like each marginal token, or the less voting power each marginal token has.
Right. Just like you don't want somebody to be able to come into your business and do a hostile takeover and start making decisions, and basically because they have more money than you, then they can buy out your DAO and just
do whatever they want.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey,
that's good. That's a good analogy. It's the equivalent of a hostile takeover. Yeah.
Right. Hey, have you heard about this ape DAO situation with Kylo Ren?
Yeah. Actually, Joanne, this is what
we were talking about it in the DMs.
Sent it to me.
Basically, they were doing a vote to liquidate 81 Bored Apes. Apparently, Kylo Ren, the guy who started Ape DAO, he's the third largest holder of Bored Apes in the galaxy, I guess.
Metaverse.
In the metaverse. Well, if you're in the world, you're in the galaxy too. Unless they got Bored Apes on Saturn.
Are they in space?
Space
maybe.
apes. They probably got space
on the yacht.
Megapon apes are going to space, so
that's another project that is actually hella cool. But hold on, I'm gonna get to that in a second. Yeah. So there's something about Ape DAO that's, I think, talks to the point that you're mentioning, that you don't want somebody to be able to like make decisions without you and then change something, because the DAO voted. Basically, I think that the majority wanted to liquidate these Bored Apes, but then there's 4 people who are in control of the multi-sig wallet that actually holds these. So these 4, like you said, management, basically, they have to, now the 4 of them have to have a majority, 3 out of 4, to actually liquidate these apes. Is that how it is? Is that common thing?
Yeah, so kind of. So this is going to get a little more technical, but there are basically kind of like 2 ways you can do a DAO treasury. One is what's called like a traditional multi-sig, and a multi-sig is just literally like an address, a contract that will hold tokens, basically like a wallet. It could be a wallet, it could also just be a contract, because contracts can also have contracts also have addresses and can also call other contracts. So they can basically function as almost like a wallet, basically. So you have what's called a multi-sig. And actually most DAOs on Ethereum are just multi-sigs. And what a multi-sig is just like basically think of like a wallet that requires multiple people to sign before it could do anything. So in this case, Ape DAO has 5 signers. They need 3 people to actually sign for them to be able to do anything. And so initially when the other type of treasury, DAO treasury, is one that works with proposal voting. So there's some type of proposal that's submitted, all the members vote, and when that's approved, it triggers automatic functionality from the treasury, right? So there's no multi-sig. It's literally as if the proposal clears, the transaction is going through the treasury. It's going to happen.
Okay.
So those are the 2 kind of different types of treasury: proposal voting and multi-sig. DAOs, which initially started on Ethereum, initially started with proposal voting, but there's 2 problems with proposal voting. One is when you're on Ethereum and gas is so fucking high, people have, especially back in the summer when gas was something like $100-$200 or whatever, it would require people to pay $100-$200 for every single vote, because that vote.
Damn. Yeah.
I don't even get anything back.
Wow.
You just can't, right? So that right there, okay, case closed. You just can't really do it. But then the other problem too is that if you have day-to-day, operations, expenses, things you just have to do as part of the DAO, that's it's very hard to do that through proposal voting, because the way proposal voting works is that you kind of need a voting period, right? You can't just have I don't know, a 30-minute voting period, right? Because then again, that'd be kind of unfair and no one can vote. So usually the DAO, there'll be some kind of rules in place where maybe it'll be a week or a few days. And if you kind of need to do stuff day to day and spend transactions every day, you kind of can't rely on waiting a few days for a proposal to pass, right? So that's the second problem. The pendulum starts to swing back a bit because Ethereum now has rollouts, you have other layer 1s, and people are seeing the problem with multi-sigs, which is highlighted by Ape DAO, in that because the multi-sig, it just relies on these signers. The community can vote for whatever. Who gives a fuck? It's not a binding vote. There's no functionality from the vote, right?
Yeah.
Like the signers can literally just like the signers can literally just run with the money, right?
So
Like,
so it's notional. It's like they're just kind of doing it for
the
like,
vote doesn't mean anything.
right.
Yeah, and like so StackerDAOs, like we personally kind of like don't like that for that reason. It's like not really a DAO because like the vote, like there's no connection between the voting. There's no enforcement mechanism between the voting and the multi-sig.
It's symbolic.
So yeah, exactly. And it's like you have to again, it goes back to trust. You have to trust these signers to actually like carry out the functions of DAO. So what we're doing is we're doing primarily like proposal voting, but you can still spin up a multi-sig through StackerDAOs. And at least in my opinion, what I think most DAOs should do is not do the multi-sig, do a proposal voting treasury, and just as like a first vote, set up a multi-sig as well, right? Because the treasury, the DAO can also just create its own multi-sig, even though it has as a primary treasury, like a proposal voting treasury. So you create a multi-sig and then you send a portion of your funds, not all of it, but like, I don't know, like 20%, whatever you think is needed for like day-to-day transactions and operations, you send that to the multi-sig. And also when you're creating the multi-sig, the signers can be chosen by the community vote. And that's all automated and enforced through the blockchain. So whoever the community decides will be the signers, we trust will be the signers of these multi-sig to, have possession of 20%, let's say, of our treasury to do like day-to-day operations. We can vote for that and there'll be automatic functionality.
So I think OpenDAO might have done something like that with their SOS token. I think they had the community vote on multi-sig, like, I don't know, members for the community.
Members, but I don't know if, and I could be wrong, I don't think that was, again, I think that was kind of like a nominal vote. Like, okay. I don't think there was like, I could be wrong, but I think I remember when I was last looking at it, I don't think there's any sort of like, again, automatic functionality from that, any functionality from that vote.
Got you.
It was just again, like you're just like voting on like either Snapshot, which is this tool that a lot of DAOs use that just collects votes, or like voting on Discord or something. But again, there's no, it still requires that trust. And I think that's kind of fine, but I don't think you should, the entire DAO treasury should like go to a multi-sig and have like, and rely on that trust. Because I understand, of course you have these day-to-day expenses, day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
And so I think the solution is to just have have like as the head, the proposal voting, and then just as a sub, like a sub DAO or whatever, create the multi-sig and just give a portion of the treasury to that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
For real. And I mean, there's not enough time to study to see like what our best practices. It's like we're really making it. I say we. It's definitely you, not me. But we're making this up as we go and like learning on the fly, man. Like the oldest OG in crypto is like 10, 12 years old. You know what I mean? So, and I don't even know if a Bitcoiner would call themselves crypto person, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like NFTs weren't really a thing a year ago. I mean,
right.
they were, yes, you had punks, whatever, but you didn't have NFT communities in the same way that you do now. You have DAOs really in the same. You have some DAOs, but you don't have DAOs in the way you do now either.
Right. The age of these things are measured in months more so than years.
Yeah, it's insane. Weird.
Man.
So, but I also think that leaves a lot of opportunity for people to come in, because you don't need that much experience, and like 6 months in crypto, like if you're really like just like really in it, 6 months in crypto is like, I don't know, like 4 years in like some other industry at least, or more.
Literally. And so the fact that everything's so new, you've been talking about stacks. We didn't even touch on it yet, so it probably went over some people's head, but between Megapont, between StackerDAOs, all the different things that are developing, they got grants programs, they got city coins. It's a lot of stuff actually happening. But like for people who are listening who might not know about stacks, could you give like a quick 1-2 lines about what is Stacks, the blockchain, and then why you chose to build StackerDAOs on Stacks?
Yeah, so Stacks is a layer one blockchain that it's a smart contracts blockchain. So it does like all these kind of, basically think of Ethereum if you know it, if you know Ethereum. But it's basically a blockchain that kind of does like computer stuff. That's another way to think about it. It's basically for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin doesn't have that kind of like computer aspect to it, but Ethereum does. And so what Stacks does is it's basically smart contracts for Bitcoin, because and the way it does this is that Stacks can read into Bitcoin state and read and be triggered by Bitcoin transactions. So think about like a program or something, or think about it this way: you can send native Bitcoin somewhere, and Stacks will read that and then maybe send you an NFT if you want to buy an NFT using Bitcoin. Also, Stacks is anchored to Bitcoin for security reasons. So it's ultimately every transaction Stacks transaction settles on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the most secure and decentralized blockchain. So ultimately, all Stacks transactions settle the most secure and decentralized blockchain. And finally, you can lock your Stacks up for periods of time and receive between like a 7 to 10% yield in Bitcoin. As part of consensus, which gets a little more complicated, which I won't get into. But basically, receive like a 7 to 10% yield in Bitcoin with Stacks as well. And the reason why I started building it was I first saw so Stacks launched last January, so it's like a year old, and I basically like I just like again mentioned I was a trader before. I like bought it as an investment because I'm like, it's just gonna fucking print. It's like Ethereum, but like with Bitcoin, right? Like mixing Ethereum and Bitcoin, smart contract for Bitcoin, and you have a lot of like blockchains recently that I think like in the last like 6 months or so, it's coming out of nowhere, like that no one really knew, like Near one, and then even like 9 months ago, like Solana, Avalanche, Luna, that all have kind of blown up. But again, like I mentioned, you don't have Bitcoin with smart contracts used in smart contracts, right? So if you were to just take like and Bitcoin is by far the largest market cap of any token, of any crypto token, right? If you were to take 20% of that market cap and put it into smart contracts in the way that Ethereum is being used in smart contracts, that would annihilate every single blockchain other than Ethereum, right? If you take 50%, it would be on par with Ethereum. If you take 70%, that's it. Like you now have the like Bitcoin and Stacks would basically be the largest like smart contract, aka kind of like computer crypto network in the world, right? And coming from my finance background, right, I know that as in like these major money managers, they have to allocate some of their portfolio to Bitcoin, whether that's like 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, because at this point it's making too much money, and it's like they all have what's called fiduciary duties. They have to act in the best interest of like their investment fund. And so these people have to like invest in Bitcoin, because at this point it's like neglect not doing so.
Isn't it crazy how that narrative flipped though? Like it went from magic internet money to being like potentially the world's reserve currency, and now it's like before it's risky to have exposure. Now it's getting more risky.
It's like you need it.
Yeah, so these big money managers like pension funds, insurance funds, central banks, basically all the people that hold all the money, they have to put some of their money into Bitcoin, and it's already starting to happen. And they have to put like it'll start off small, right? Like 1%, 2%, 3%. We're talking about 1%, 2%, 3% of like trillions of dollars, right? So, and here's the thing. So again, I was an interest rate trader. I had a lot of these like big money managers, like central banks, whatever, it's clients, and like I mentioned before, they have fiduciary duties. They have to. So whatever, like, so a lot of times they'll get like treasury bonds, right? A lot of like their dollars are put into treasury bonds because they need to get a yield on it, right? Because you can't just, because they have fiduciary duties to like maximize their returns on the portfolio. So they can't just have dollars sitting in their bank. They have to put that dollar to work, but they don't want it to be that risky. So they put it into like treasuries, right? And get some kind of like return back. Or they loan it out to like interbanks, like for a couple of days, whatever. There's like a whole interbank,
that whole overnight market.
Yeah, exactly. Repo. So like whatever. So they have to put this money to work, right? Likewise, these people are gonna have to put their Bitcoin to work, right? And if you now have these DeFi protocols set up by Stacks, right, where you can just earn an interest on your Bitcoin, decentralized, risk-free, permissionlessly, and like you can see the smart contracts, so you know there's like not risk, right? Because you can have like these people just hire some fucking coders to like read smart contracts, and they'll know that there's no risk or like very little risk. You're gonna have to loan out or like get yield on that Bitcoin through Stacks. So like again, a big part of like Bitcoin's market cap, my thesis is that a big part of that Bitcoin's market cap is going to be going into Stacks, just like generating these returns, because a lot of these, like a big portion of Bitcoin's market cap is going to be held in the balance sheets of these major money managers and funds. And so that's kind of like that's kind of like what I saw, what I realized last year. I'm like, oh shit, if this is executed well, it's about execution. I think that's like the major risk is like whether we can like Stacks to kind of figure out the whole like Bitcoin functionality piece. But if it can be executed well, there's like no doubt in my mind that that Stacks is gonna be huge. And specifically why I decided to build on Stacks was I think Stacks will be successful, and as a kind of early participant in the ecosystem, I kind of saw it from literally nothing, because it takes like months and months and months for infrastructure to grow. For you to even get to like being able to issue NFTs, like there's a bunch of other infrastructure that needs to get built. So like, you know, I remember like being there in like the spring, winter, spring, like there's not much there, but like still seeing all these promising projects come out. And then in like end of August, September, there's an explosion of activity, like exponential. And I don't know, like as someone who was just like, you know, observing and paying attention, it's like all this kind of energy just inspired me. And I was kind of like, man, like all this cool stuff is happening. And I feel like I've been involved in the ecosystem like since mainnet launched, and I kind of like know a decent amount. And I kind of just had this like itch to like jump in there. And I had already wanted to kind of start my own company or my own project. So it kind of just lined up perfectly.
Love it. I love it, man. Yeah, we're building on Stacks too, but this is not about us, man. So I'm not even gonna shill the bags right now. Honestly,
Well,
Stacks is doing something so different, and I think that's what's attractive. And the community of people who are building there, because it's so early, there is not a lot of rent takers. You know, there's not a lot of people who are there to extract value, because it's so new that
yeah.
you actually have to truly want to build something to go there. And I think that's why it's a cool place to be right now. A lot of the people in the ecosystem got the same kind of ethos.
Yeah, it's like I think it's a very, I would say, high quality ecosystem. Like everyone I meet is just, I'm just like very impressed by. Like literally, you got like literally every single person I meet, and I've through StackerDAOs, I've been meeting with a lot of people who want to start DAOs and stuff. Every single person, you know, it just kind of like blows my mind out. It's like how kind of like high quality the ecosystem is. And like there aren't like I mean, I'm sure there may be like some scammers, but like you know, crypto, but like it's not like Ethereum, Solana. Like there's just it's just way more signal than noise. Why'd you guys decide to build on Stacks?
Man, a lot of the same reasons. I think first of all, it's hard to deny the fact that, you know, Bitcoin is the most decentralized, the hardest, most secure blockchain, the hardest money known to man. And so when you know the mechanics of how the micro blocks and the anchor blocks work, even if something catastrophic was to happen to Stacks, let's say, as sometimes happens to these smart contract chains, and they had to roll it back, they're only rolling it back 10 minutes to the last Bitcoin block, because every state settles in a Bitcoin transaction. So that gives you a little bit of insurance, knowing that, you know, as long as the 13,000 plus public and however many private nodes that are running the Bitcoin blockchain are out there, Stacks is also recorded in the Bitcoin transactions that are on those nodes, right? So are the Bitcoin blocks that are on those nodes. So just thinking about longevity, to your point, if they execute, this is something that's going to be there step for step with Bitcoin. Second of all, the liquidity that's waiting on the sidelines, I think that's going to be exciting to see it deployed as more of these infrastructure roll out. Because myself, I was a person who I wasn't as excited about a lot of the more Ponzi stuff that's out there. Because you got to think about it. It's like if you're not truly providing any value, you're counting on another investor to come in after you with more excitement and bigger pockets. Otherwise, you have to have some actual utility to what you're building. And Bitcoin being potentially a reserve asset or an international forex trade for so many different countries, looking at how it's used in places where they don't have access to the S&P 500, where people can actually just get something. You go to a place like Turkey, Argentina, whether we're trading oil and Bitcoin, whatever it may be, we know that that's going to be there. So to enable the smart contract side of things, it's bringing a whole different function to holding on to Bitcoin. Instead of just hodl, now you can put it in motion, have a mortgage that automatically repays itself, make a loan that's triggered by somebody, getting liquidated, or whatever it may be. And it's just the smart contract component tied to Bitcoin that was enticing. And then lastly, to your point, if we raised a lot of money, right, and we're building this company and it's taking us time, you want to be able to earn a yield on that. And why would you not want to earn a yield in a currency that you actually want to hold on to? So to build in stacks and to be able to have a portion of your treasury denominated in stacks that is locked away, earning you Bitcoin, I think that is doing right by the people who invested in your project. So introducing people to the mechanics of stacking, earning Bitcoin passively, and getting familiar with this was part of the reason too, because we want to help grow it and we want to help introduce people to this thing that maybe is not as popular right now, but we believe that it has the capacity to really help change a lot of lives.
Yeah, like everything Courtney just said. That was a big reason, honestly, like after he broke it down to me for a while. But the big thing for me when I looked at the grand scheme of things, it's going to sound crazy, but like I automatically thought of like Michael Jordan growing with Nike and creating his own Jordan brand. I saw Ethereum as the Converse, right? It's cool now. Everybody wants a pair. That's how it was when Jordan was coming up. But then I was like, he chose Nike because he wanted to grow with the organization, right? So I was like, if we can build something on Stacks and Stacks grows to what we think it could be, and we're part of that, I only think it would help us in the long run. So everything that Courtney just said and my vision as far as what we could possibly build on Stacks and what they're building, as you can see, like they have weekly, monthly announcements where they're like, yo, they just said that they were going to have this in 6 months. They have it in a month, right? So we know that the Stacks organization is grinding and they're trying to bring new technology fast. And we were just excited to be part of that. So that was a big reason why I felt like we should build the project on Stacks as well.
Not to mention you DM Munib and he hits you back.
Yeah, he gave me his email. So I was like, yo, this guy.
I also have DM'd Munib and gotten
he's a good dude.
Yeah, well, I'm actually today's, so I'm actually speaking to him on Friday.
That's dope.
Okay.
That's dope, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, as a content creator, somebody who's actually like consuming the crypto space, like my boy Courtney, he's on that put me on. He's like, yo, NFTs, blah, 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 look into NFT gaming. So I did a whole deep dive and then I'm like, yo, to own an NFT on Ethereum blockchain is like, it's so expensive. I'm like, there's no way. I don't know anything about these things. So when he put me on this,
kills you. It's crazy.
Yeah. So when he put me on the Stacks blockchain, I'm like, yo, he's like, to send Stacks is like super cheap. So I just assumed that the gas prices owning an NFT would be cheaper too. So he bought Bitcoin Monkey and he put me on Bitcoin Monkey. So I'm like, all right, bet. Let me go find a project of my own. So I started looking into other projects and I was able to find like, I think you also put me on Crash Punks, but I dove deeper into the Crash Punks community and it was just easy to get a part of. Like it wasn't complex. The gas prices weren't crazy. So it was easy for me to get into. And I think like if people are looking at getting into NFTs or getting into the future of cryptocurrency, I saw Ethereum as like, I don't know, like getting like a Maserati, only a few people could get into that type of economy. But with Stacks, I realized that first of all, anybody can get into this economy, but also is backed by Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is being used in countries that I am a huge supporter of, like Nigeria, because I mean, I'm Nigerian. And on top of that, like we're helping an economy that's looking to rise into, this economic power that, the USA is in and the Western countries. They're going to want things. They're going to want NFTs. They're going to want to play blockchain games. They're going to want to do all these things. And if they can't do it on the Ethereum blockchain, but there's a chain like Stacks that can allow them to do that, that is a whole market that like nobody's talking to right now. So with this learn to earn thing that my boys put me on, like, yo, can you help us out with content? Hell yeah. Because it's going to be, we're talking to people that are like us that want to be a part of something, but there was a barrier and we're not going to be able to tell them like, yo, there is no barrier anymore. You can be a part of this. So that's why I'm on board with anything Stacks has to do.
Preach.
I didn't call that. Mic drop.
Nah, that's dope, man. Well, shoot, yo, honestly, it's been dope talking to you. At the beginning, I said that this could be a 6-hour conversation from the fixed income desk to the courtroom to the metaverse or whatever we call this Web3 place, man. Honestly, I appreciate you sharing all these gems with us, and let everybody know where they can find out more about StackerDAOs and everything that you guys are building.
Yeah, you can follow me and or StackerDAOs. Actually, you should follow me. You can follow me at Orlando_BTC. And you can follow StackerDAOs at just at StackerDAOs.
Orlando, man, we appreciate your time. We're definitely going to keep in touch and follow everything you guys are doing. And we look forward to working together in the future, because I'm going to just throw it out there. It's going to happen. So you'll be seeing more of our faces in the future.
Awesome. No, I love what you guys are doing. Hope, best of luck to what you're doing. I think you guys are going to crush it. I think you guys definitely have a great idea, and also just like seems like you have a great team and you're pretty passionate, and I think that goes a long way. So good luck, and I'm excited to see what you guys pull off.
All right, everybody, follow me on Twitter at jbreskeson11.
I'm the C Steven,
and I'm Professor Sticks. We'll see you guys in the next one.